All right, so how do you draw the 49 processes? Well, you first of all need to remember the I prefer eating mangoes chilled. So, I prefer eating mangoes chilled. Just remember that it's initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, and controlling, and closing. The next thing you want to do is remember your I saw 6 Cubans quietly rolling cigars, really puffing smoke. All right, now the next trick, because you guys already know this, the next trick is to put those numbers to guide you, either at the top or bottom. So how many processes are there in initiating? You guys remember? Good. So I would expect that you put a 2 to guide you. How many in planning? 24, good. How many in executing? 40. 10. 10 in executing, 12 in monitoring and controlling, and 1 in closing. All right, next step. Make sure this is capturing properly. Let me move it a little bit. All right. Good. So the next step is to begin to put abbreviations for all the processes. First one is develop project charter. I do not use the full, spelled out term, otherwise it'll take you hours. And people who do this on the exam, they've taken my clue as to doing this like with abbreviations. This is IS, identify stakeholders, and then you go up, you're done with that. Now with these, the trick is to first of all do those that are for subsidiary plans. So you'll have plan something management, plan X management, that's what I call it, where X is the knowledge area name. So if you just have plan X management all throughout, plan something management, you know that all of them are like this. Just put in the knowledge area name, plan scope management, plan schedule management, plan cost management, plan quality management, plan resource management, plan communications management, plan risk management, plan procurement management, and plan stakeholder engagement, they call it. So that has a little bit of a difference, but all the rest are all management. Okay. Now at the top, you've got your develop what? What do all these roll up into? Develop PMP. What's the PMP? Project Management Plan. Good. So in addition to all of these subsidiary planning processes, you also have some other planning processes. But let's not talk about these yet. I'm just showing you how to get the format all laid out. For executing, it's typically manage something. But if you've noticed, in this block for scope, you don't have anything. So that's blank. Same thing for schedule, nothing here. Same thing for cost. When it comes to quality, you have manage quality. When it comes to resources, at the bottom of everything, you've got manage team. So just remember the word manage is a bit consistent. For communications, you have manage communications. For risk, you've got something called implement risk responses, IRR. Just remember project selection methods, IRR. Next one here, we got conduct. It's a little bit different. We got conduct procurements. And then last but not least, right at the bottom, we have manage what? Stakeholder what? Engagement, good. Manage stakeholder engagement, awesome. Have we got up to 10? No, there are 2 missing at the top. So the 2 missing at the top, we've got one with a D, direct and manage project work, very important one, has the word manage in it, and then we also have the word manage project knowledge. So if you remember the M's, where the M's come in, so direct and manage project work, manage project knowledge, manage quality, manage team, manage communications, manage stakeholder engagement, those help you. And of course, for the planning, all of the plan X managements, those help you get a lot of them out of the way right off the bat. All right, so if you look at what we've done so far, it's quite a lot. Now going over to monitoring and controlling, we have a lot of things with the word control in them. So we have monitor and control, there you go, monitor and control project work, and perform integrated change control, again the word control. And then going over to the others, it's quite straightforward. This is a bit of an anomaly. It's got validate scope, VS, but it's got control scope. This has got control schedule. This has got control cost. This has got control quality. This has got control resources, the physical resources. This has got monitor communications because there are people involved. The next one is also monitor risks because we've got a lot of unknowns we can't control. This is control procurement. And lastly, we've got a soft one for monitor here, monitor stakeholder engagement. You're monitoring it. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's done. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So up here in resources, we've got a couple that are acquire resources, AR, and develop team. Okay, so if you can just remember, you know, you got 2 network diagrams, AON and ADM. Well, this forms ADM. That's the way you can remember this order. Acquire, develop, manage. Okay, so that is it for executing. For closing, it's very simple. It's just close, project, or phase. There's only one process there. So what we have to contend with is this stuff. Well, we already have developed project management plan up here. So all we need to do is go back in time and ask ourselves, what is the sequence for carrying out the tasks or the work in each of these knowledge areas? So of course, you're always going to plan first, plan something management. But then in scope, what do you do first? You collect your requirements. You don't go into defining scope until you have done CR. After you've collected your requirements, just remember, requirements begets scope. So R before the S, requirements before S, like in the alphabet. QRS, R before the S. So now we have defined scope, and of course, your WBS comes into play. Or create WBS, CWBS. Okay, going into scheduling, we've been through the motions. You plan how you're going to do it, and then what do you do first? You define activities. Then you put them in order, sequence activities. Then you're thinking of duration, estimate activity durations. And then they're going to be inputs from somewhere here into this. Yeah, from the WBS going into define activities, and then from a process here, which is to do with resources, we're yet to write that, but they interact quite a lot. But estimate activity durations is here. Over here, you have estimate activity resources. So your EAR is like your ear and your head. The head first and then the ear. That's how I remember them. They used to be together. So anyway, that's that. Going into cost, plan cost management, and then what do you do first? Do you estimate or do you budget? What comes first?
Are we done at the schedule? There's one missing.
Is there one missing? 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, develop schedule. DS. Thank you. So these are the this is a summation of everything you've done before it, and boom, you've got your schedule. Good. All right. So going into cost, what comes after planning cost management? Is it budget, or is it estimate, or what? Estimate cost, EC, and then determine budget. Good. All right. So we've talked about this. That's complete. That's complete. That's complete. We've got a lot to do with risk. So after you've planned risk management, what comes next? Okay, so you have to plan how you're going to do it. Then you identify. Good. Identify risk. Then you perform qualitative risk analysis before performing quantitative, you could say QN, risk analysis. And then what happens after you've done your analysis? You plan risk responses. Good. So you can see, I don't write all the names out, otherwise it will take too long. But the sooner you guys get this down, the better it's going to be for you. Because the next step after all of this is to begin to ask, what comes from here and goes in here? What comes from here and goes in here? What comes from here and goes in there? And that becomes more obvious to you. Okay? So let me move it a little bit closer so that we get the full picture and you guys will be able to watch this again. All right. So that's it. Any questions about this? A lot of students, they live by this. If they haven't got their fix of this for the day, they're not happy. And you're going to see that exemplified in the next few slides that I'll show you here. Quite a few slides I'll be showing you. So bear with me as I adjust this focus. So I'm going to be sharing with you, Oh, yes. Oh, this. Oh, get out of the way. There we go. All right, so I'm going to be sharing with you some of the things my PMP champions have done in the past. And basically, if you don't have a whiteboard, my suggestion to you would be to go get a whiteboard, because you are going to need a whiteboard to do a lot of what I'm suggesting here. You're going to need a whiteboard to constantly draw out page 25. So you might want to put that on your list of things to go acquire from Home Depot or wherever you can get that. But you definitely need a whiteboard. Without a whiteboard, you're not going to be able to do this as many times as I would like you to do. All right. So let's take a look at what some of my PMP champions have done over the years when it comes to getting PMP certified. Let's take a lesson from this guy. His name is Steve. He's out of a company called LMI. And he gave this little presentation to us after he got certified. Former US Army, worked at Boeing, former US Air Force, and works in a firm called LMI right now. Now, this is what he did that's quite remarkable. He took over his dining table, as you can see, and he put butcher paper all across the table, and exactly what we did just now, that's what he did on his dining table. And every process accounted for, but not just that, there's some spaghetti lines all the way from up there, develop project charter, to wherever the project charter was an input. So he took this whole thing to the next level by, let me just show you, let me make a little close up here, by tracing each input. You can see these lines. Each input, where is it coming from? You know, that kind of thing. He did this. You can also see he made copies of 7 pages of the PMBOK guide just to firm up his understanding of all of this stuff. He came up with his own little cheat sheet. I've given you guys a cheat sheet. But at the time he did this, there were only 47 of the processes, but this was his whole strategy for getting certified. You know, he would identify all of the inputs, tools, techniques, and outputs. Those data flow diagrams in the PMBOK guide, that became his mantra, you know. He said on the day of the test, get there early. They'll give you a locker to lock up your stuff. You'll be allowed to take food in. Just make sure you leave your food outside the locker. And you can take a break whenever you want, but the time is still ticking. He says, trust your instincts. Unless your instinct is to lock your key in a box. Funny. This is from another student, Colleen. She was in a class I did as well. And she said, estimated over 70 questions ended verbatim with what should the project manager do? So you guys get used to seeing your project manager, blah, 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 what should you do? You're gonna get quite a few of those. There were quite a few questions about a project manager stepping into a project that had already started and what he or she should do in specific situations. Know which documents they should be referencing and how they should act. Issue escalation. Make sure that you know how the project manager should be escalating and communicating unforeseen issues that arise on the project. Issues that come up with stakeholders abruptly closing the project, conflict on the team, and how they should be addressing these issues. So just speaking to that really quickly, the right answer is usually the project manager needs to figure out a solution before calling anyone, before phone your boss. It's never the right answer. I saw a decent amount of questions on 3-point. One example that I saw was provided 3 values and asked to pick which value the project manager should use for estimating cost. The tricky part here is that they provided insight into whether I should use triangular or beta. So do you guys remember what I told you about when to use beta versus triangular? Which one should be?
If you have more background than previous information, you go with the Pareto, and if not,
you go with the beta, exactly. Go with the beta if you've got more experience. Good. All right. I'm glad you remember that. Don't forget, that's exactly what she's saying. Know all of the quality management tools and in what situations they should be used. Tornado diagram is a real thing. Do you guys remember where the tornado diagram is?
Beta is Pareto is the second one? Or?
No, Pareto is Pareto's 80-20 principle.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, beta and triangular.
Oh, beta.
But I kind of got what you mean. Pareto, you weigh the 80-20 rule, but in this one it's 4M.
No, it was my mistake. Sorry.
4M, cool. Okay, there's a lot of content anyway. Take more practice exams. There were so many situational questions that did not have clear answers. I think I would have been more comfortable had I taken more practice quizzes and tests as opposed to focusing all of my extra time on the materials or videos. So you know you've got videos, you've got quizzes. She's saying take the quizzes a lot. And then outside of this, you guys are going to see appear. You're going to get emails saying Phil has assigned you to a course. It just means I've given you more quizzes to do, so do those. I found Phil's mainline video to be very helpful in tying everything together regarding deliverables and work performance data information/report. So if you go on YouTube, we've got a channel. I've got all sorts of videos, you know, videos that talk about data flows. And there's one she's talking about where I show something similar to what I showed you guys yesterday. The check-in process at the exam facility in Falls Church was not complicated. Only took about 10 minutes to check in, and I got started upon arrival. Not exactly at my exam scheduled time, about 15 minutes early. I found the room to be on the warm side, but at the time she was very pregnant, so it could have been just her, she said. But can you imagine, she was about 8 or almost going on 9 months when she took this exam. So she's one of my bosses, seriously. There's a Panera about a half mile away in case you want to get there early and cram a little. I actually took my Agile exam in this center, so it wasn't bad. All right, so before we get to talking about the mock exam, which is coming up in the next hour, let's see. I wanted to touch a little bit on some of my PMP champions. So some of my PMP champions that have done this in the past. First one here, her name is Sarah Scherf from Pepperdine University. She's one of the students that was freaking out. I don't think I'm ready, Phil. I think I'm gonna fail this thing, test me. So I started asking her questions and she's answering the questions, matching my question with answers. And I asked her, why are you not confident about taking the exam? You know, don't waste my time, go do it. So she goes to do it, kills it. 4 above targets is what she got. But the night before she watched the movie, she took it easy. So you don't have to kill yourself to pass, especially the night before. Take it easy. Here's another guy, his name is John Wood from a place called Spotsylvania County in Virginia. He went through the course, was quite, studious, had a study plan and all that. But when he took the mock exam, he got a 40-something. It's like, Phil, now I know what to do. I'm like, that's the spirit. So he goes away and he begins to study. So in the book, all of the questions, the exercises, he begins to record his progress. First attempt, second attempt, as you can see there. So he had a really serious plan. Anyway, long story short is after he took the exam, he ended up getting 4 above targets. And this is someone who got a 40 on the mock exam you guys are going to take. So what I'm telling you is don't be discouraged. So what if you got a 40? So what if you got a 30? You can still get to the top of the class afterwards. And I think he had like the highest out of all the proficients in his class. Those who got higher than him, he even outdid them in the exam. So it's not about the mock, it's about what you do after it. But anyway, this chap from Canada, his name is Parmeet Singh. That's the guy I told you about, So he's a real person. You can check him out on LinkedIn. He's the guy who got the LMS on Thursday, he studied for 12 hours a night, and passed the exam on Monday. People think it's a fairy tale, but it's possible. The only project management course he did was during his master's degree, but he didn't go for a full-blown PMP course. So he just studied pretty much for 4 weeks and then killed it. He did really well. So it is doable. And then Steve Shaw, I just told you about Steve. So this stuff, it's doable, it's possible. You just have to put in the time and the effort. This next guy, he bought a whiteboard, put it in his office every morning religiously. That's what Imran did, every morning religiously, and he got certified with a lot of proficiency as well, a lot of above targets as well. So whatever strategy you need to use, to get certified, whatever strategy, bless you. In my mind, it's all about study, 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 and it's all about taking the quizzes, the mock exams. Very soon, you guys are going to find the 2020 quizzes and mock exam. Make flashcards for yourself. Use the crime sheet. Make your own. Keep doing it until you're getting the high 90s. After this class, I'm going to be sending you guys audio for you to even immerse yourself further. I know you've got the Vimeo, but I'm going to be sending you more audio. Read and study the study guide and the PMBOK guide. I'm also going to be setting you up. So here's the deal. When you guys feel you're about a month away or 2 weeks away from your exam, I'm going to be sending you the power review on a case-by-case basis. This is another very accelerated course. 6 hours, put you in the fast lane, and within 6 hours, you've covered the entire ITTO landscape. But that will be when you tell me you're ready or you're getting ready for the exam, like 2 weeks or 4 weeks away, just let me know and I'll get you to these. But I would like you to first take all of those videos on Vimeo, and then when you're done with those, I'll send you this. All right, and then check in with your friend Phil, and yeah, you'll end up getting to success. All right, so that's my 2 cents of how you can effectively leverage this opportunity. It's a great opportunity, seriously. Take advantage of it. All right, I think we are almost ready for the mock exam. Do you have any questions for me? Yes, sir.
2 easy questions. One on the application. We need to get that in, prepared, all that stuff, have you review. Then we actually sign up for the test.
Exactly. So at the end of all of this, when you've taken the mock, the 1 hour mock, I'm going to hand you your certificates of completion. It has a course code, so you can go into PMI's website today and start filling it in and put in the code, and then you can send me a PDF printout of what you've done and say, Phil, take a look. I'll take a look. If I feel it's good, I can go ahead and submit it. If I feel there are things to tweak, they will tweak that. But be aware that PMI, they're very strict in this approach. In your application, you want to follow this initiating, planning, executing approach. That is, they're quite serious about it. Initiating, planning, executing, monitoring and control, and closing for your project. So be it project 1, project 2, they want a description. Don't get too technical with them or they'll get lost. But a blurb about what you did in initiating. You could say, initiated the project by developing a charter, for example. Planning, developed a project management plan, created a risk, a register template, or filled in the risk register, whatever you did in planning. Again, they want to know. It's not the technical work you did, but you could have a technical title like Project XYZ install, bucket, elevator, lift, or whatever you call it, install. But at the end of the day, what they're looking for is project management description. This should be project management jargon. So you should be giving them, develop the WBS, got the team in a room and, you know, whatever you cranked out. Executing is really more about driving the leadership pieces, developed a plan of training for people. Whatever you did that is focus more on the executing piece, leading the team. Monitoring and controlling is all about reporting. So this could be develop reports for senior management, report it to teams, blah, blah, blah. And closing, all the things you mentioned about the handovers, that's what they want to know, but not the technical detail. What they're really looking for here is going to have to do with, you know, the 5 process groups and project management. All right, so that's one question you had, Ron. Do you have another question?
And past experience on closed book type of deals. Is there any place that we can write notes? Maybe not today or here, but when you're actually taking the test, is when you're there, you can strip search and everything. You have when you're on a computer, do they give you a little pad that's about this big, or they would give you anything?
They give you a pad. They're a little bit strict on when you start writing notes, but they'll give you like a booklet. Actually, some people give you 2 booklets, so you got 8 pages. But if you run out of paper, they're going to take away what you've used and give you fresh paper. So they've got a kind of limit on, you know, the paper, the count. But yeah, they provide that to you. Yeah, a lot of people, they just get in there and they start doing a brain dump immediately. Doing a brain dump of what's in their head, doing the whole of page 25, doing all the formulas. Yeah, that's totally allowed. But the time has to have started, because there are 2 sections to the experience. One, you get in, you read the instructions on the computer screen. So they start you off and they tell you to read. Now, when you're done reading the instructions, only then can you begin to do your brain dump, because you stop the tutorial about how to use the system, and then you start the 200 questions. Only then can you. Yeah.
So how about calculators?
They give you a calculator, or they ask you to use the Microsoft inbuilt calculator on the screen. Yeah. So they set you up, you see your name, you see everything the moment you get there. You got headphones to put on if there's noise. You've got the frantic typing exam next to you, or you've got Mr. or Mrs. Cough next to you, you know, coughing every second, so you can drown them out with their hands. All right. So, folks, you're welcome. Any other questions or concerns before we take our mock exam? You need some sort of 5-minute bio break before you go into it. It's a solid 1 hour. Solid 1 hour. All right, let's take a little bio break, and then when we come back, we'll get into it.